welcoming you to the Libertarian Counterpoint's Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. You've heard their point, now listen to the counterpoint.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. We're coming at you on September 22nd, 2021. We're about 8-9 months into this year, and it's boy, these last few years have been a doozy. But before we get into anything today, I wanted to let you know we're having a special program today. We have a guest. So we have two guests today with us from the same organization, Barbara Thomas and Rick Hotchner. So they are representing Braver Angels, and we're going to have a discussion with them today to let you know a little bit about their organization. But let me introduce you to the rest of the panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon the Word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. And my name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So let's jump right into it. These are kind of crazy times. We seem to be getting super polarized on everything political, and it's really creating a kind of toxic environment. A lot of families tearing themselves apart and other things. It's just kind of crazy the way we've gone in the last, maybe 4 or 5 plus years. And so, the question is, how do we kind of pull out of this? And that's kind of the mission, I guess, of the group that we're going to be talking to today, and that's the Braver Angels. And so we have with us Barbara Thomas and Rick Hotchner, and they're together. They're ambassadors for the group Braver Angels, and that's kind of what they do. But why don't you guys tell us a little bit about your club or about your organization, rather?
Sounds great. I'll also mention about Barbara and myself. We're a married couple, and Barbara's liberal and I'm conservative. So, we believe that good people can disagree about politics and still relate well to each other. As you said, Jason, Braver Angels exists to depolarize our country. And the way we do that is by bringing people of all different political perspectives together to hold conversations, the purpose of which is to facilitate understanding between the people engaged in the conversations, to see each other's humanity, and to find common ground where it exists. We do that by putting on free workshops to teach skills for holding those kinds of conversations, and putting on other kinds of events that allow people to practice those skills. We're not trying to change anybody's mind. We're trying to change how we treat each other.
Oh. So what when you say you try to put on events, could you just expand on that? What kind of events do you do? What does that look like?
Sure. So a couple of examples would be book and movie discussions, where participants are, read a book, watch a movie, then get together and have a facilitated discussion about it. The Braver Angels workshops and events are very structured so as to give people an opportunity to listen to each other and talk, express their own views, but in ways that are constructive and allow everybody to take something away. Another one is structured debates, where the point isn't for one side or another to win, but for everybody who's in attendance to come out smarter on the issue, knowing more about it and knowing more about the different perspectives.
Oh, I see. So Barbara, did you have anything to add to that? I mean, I thought that's a very interesting way to approach the problem of civility in America these days. But did you have anything to add to that?
Well, I think that there are thankfully a lot of organizations that are trying to promote dialogue between people of different views. One thing that really sets Braver Angels apart, as Rick mentioned, is that they actively teach the skills that you need to communicate effectively with people with whom you disagree. Because there's a lot of people who would like to have better conversations with their families or friends where things have gotten a little bit strained, but they don't know how. It feels like they need to either keep their head down, or if they do open their mouth, then it spirals down. So one major part of the approach of Braver Angels is to provide these workshops that are all free to teach these skills and practice them, to allow people to be more engaged with different ideas. And it's a community. There's a lot of, they also have local alliances all over the country where people who disagree get together and to get to know each other as people, get to understand where they're coming from, put on activities or work on projects that are of common concern. So there's a lot of different things that Braver Angels provides to the people who are involved.
You know, one of the things I noticed, it's a little off, but it just kind of occurred to me as we were talking here. But where I ran into you guys was at the Freedom Fest, and so that's kind of a libertarian get together where, you know, and libertarians are kind of somewhere in that hopeless middle ground, I guess, maybe between, you know, the two major parties. But, you know, I was curious, did you guys do outreach with the other political parties as well? Or you know, sort of, I guess, set posts up in their events as well?
Well, Freedom Fest was a new bit of outreach for us, and we were really excited to be there. I think it's important to get a full range of perspectives. Braver Angels doesn't talk about bringing Democrats and Republicans together. They tend to use the red and blue language, you know, red for people who are or lean conservative and blue for people who lean liberal or progressive. And libertarians have an interesting, you know, there's some that might identify more on the blue side, some that might more identify on the red side. Sometimes issue by issue, it could be different. There's also people involved with Braver Angels that identify as other. They're not comfortable putting either label on them. But so we are really trying to reach people across from a whole range of perspectives.
I might add a couple things here. First of all, in Braver Angels, we try to really avoid labeling people. We want each individual to be able to express themselves, you know, without people judging them by whatever label they have. The blue and red is sort of to facilitate matching people up in workshops and other events and that sort of thing. But we do try to avoid that. The other thing is, I was talking to a libertarian a couple days ago, and he made the point that he thinks libertarians are in a good position to help bridge the divide between reds and blues, conservatives and liberals. And based on our experience at Freedom Fest, where we really learned a lot about libertarians and libertarianism, we would tend to agree. You guys might feel like it's hopeless, but I think you all have a role to play.
Yeah.
So you guys don't really promote a political philosophy or ideology. You guys just trying to, I guess, promote civility in conversations and getting people to see across the political divide. I guess, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Exactly. Braver Angels does not take a position on any substantive issue, any policy issue. We're not trying to get people to come to a centrist political view, nothing like that. What we're trying to have an impact on is how we see each other as fellow Americans and how we treat each other as fellow Americans, including people with whom we disagree intensely about a particular issue. We need to get back to a place where we can have those conversations and even disagree passionately in some cases without losing sight of the other person's humanity and the fact that they're fellow Americans.
And if we're able to find common ground through this process, then we're able to start working together to find solutions. And I've found, and I've done a number of, one thing that Braver Angels provides is an opportunity to do one-on-one conversations with people with whom you disagree or that have different perspectives. So, for example, there's red-blue, there's rural-urban, there's intergenerational, and there's also white and people of color. And what I found in those conversations, where I may or may not change my mind on any issue that we're discussing, but I have a much better understanding of that issue, which I think helps in the search for common ground. And Barbara and I talk about how, you know, sometimes the ideal seems to be compromise. We don't think so. A compromise suggests that one side or another is losing. Maybe everybody's giving up a little something. It has a zero-sum kind of approach to it. We believe in synergies. If we're having good, robust discussions and listening to each other, we probably are going to be able to find synergies as we find common ground where everybody wins.
You know, one of the things I found that helps in that direction is debate forums, such like maybe Intelligence Squared or places like that. Does Braver Angels, just in the activities that you guys promote, or is that kind of where you guys are going to promote places where people can respectfully debate?
So we do have structured debates. There's a national debate team, and then we also do local alliances at the state and local levels. We'll do them as well. I'm not sure about partnerships with other people in that space, but what I can say is, the way that the debate is set up is, each side will speak for and against a particular resolution, but then after that, people who are in attendance can also give speeches. They can ask questions, and it's, again, in the Braver Angels way, it's facilitated in a way where it's very constructive. There's an emphasis on listening and learning and humility, and treating each other well. And so these tend to be, you walk away from one of those debates really having learned a lot about the issue and about the perspectives on the issue.
And we do have a pretty robust program of putting on these debates in college campuses around the country, and there are some partnerships with some of the other debate organizations that help facilitate the college program.
How long you guys been doing this Braver Angels? How long you guys been doing this?
Go ahead. Well, we discovered Braver Angels at the end of last year. Okay. We had been looking for something like this, some way to try to be part of, the effort to mend our social fabric that had become so badly damaged. And Rick actually came across a Braver Angels podcast and listened to what they had to say and looked up the website, and we saw what they had to offer. It sounded fantastic, but I wanted to see if they could really deliver. So we signed up for a number of the workshops, and as Rick was saying, some of these other book discussions and debates and things like that, and came away just really, really impressed. So we really started getting involved in January, but we started volunteering shortly after that because we were impressed with the effort and we wanted to be part of it.
I see.
Just curious, because these times are so polarizing, have you guys found it very easy to make progress? I mean, are there a lot of people who want to join, or is it like pulling teeth to get people to sort of break out of their shell?
We find that when we talk to people, we're pushing on an open door. I increasingly believe that the grand majority of the American people are people of goodwill who are willing to engage with ideas and people with which and with whom they disagree, respectively. And when we talk about this with people, they're very excited about it. They're very enthusiastic about it. Very often, they also are like, we're really happy you're doing this, and we try to emphasize that this is actually something. It's a grassroots movement, and everybody needs to get involved. We have a situation right now where the loud extremes are the ones that are sucking up all the oxygen, and the grand majority of people are kind of keeping their heads low. That grand majority of people needs to engage. As one of my favorite commentators, Glenn Lowry, says in a different context, nobody's coming to save us. We need to save ourselves.
Indeed.
So,
well, one of the big issues of our time is this cancel culture and political correctness and all that, and also the attacks on free speech. How does that impact your work? Or does it?
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of what we're addressing in Braver Angels, is that we need to be able to communicate and hear people out. So, yeah, Braver Angels, it does not support shutting down speech. We're quite the opposite. We're trying to provide fora and the skills for people to express a full range of views. And so there are things that, we've been asked, do you actually allow this? Do you allow that? And I'm like, if people are treating each other with civility, we can even have difficult conversations. We can have hard conversations about hard topics.
Yes.
But we absolutely are working to promote speech, not to shut it down.
Okay.
Yeah, I can certainly speak from my own perspective. These last 5 years, I before President Trump was elected, one of the oddest experiences I had, I was part of a local philosophy group where people would essentially, it sounded like it was a little bit similar to what you guys are doing, where there'd be a discussion topic put up and we'd get groups of maybe 10 or 15 people show up, and we'd sort of kick around the ideas around there, and you hear all kinds of interesting perspectives. And it's funny, one of the gentlemen who actually introduced me to the people who are running this show in Libertarian Counterpoint, I actually met in that group, so that was kind of a funny thing. But one of the things that really I found off-putting was there was some political discussion we were having, and the person, one of the people at the table, expressed, I guess an agreement with President Trump, or not then President Trump, but candidate Trump, about something, and the fact that they thought he was right about something. And the organizer actually asked the person to leave. And I mean, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, this is a philosophy group. We're all supposed to be sitting here having discussions about, bringing our perspectives essentially so that we can share them and go over them. And I sure am glad that your group has evolved during these years to be able to address some of this, because I find it very challenging in these times. Sometimes, as Leon said, that there's some people who are literally will just, they don't want to hear anything that's different than what they already believe. So,
exactly.
And that's one of the things that we've talked about, is that, the urge to shut down speech that you personally may find offensive doesn't make those ideas go away.
All right.
This means that the people who think those things are now only talking to each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not helpful in the end, and it helps push people towards extremes.
So, and you see the problem, it does that spread. This is that easy.
Leon, it looks like you're cutting out. Maybe let me jump to a question while your connection gets better. One of the things I was also wondering too, given some of these polarizations we're seeing, do you guys have any thoughts in your organization about how we got to where we got? How we become so polarized? Is that sort of a topic in your group?
It certainly comes up a lot. I can tell you my view. One of the things that I have seen is a lot of it has to do with the way the media has changed. And by that, I mean, when I was growing up, there were 3 or 4 TV channels, and news was on at 6 and 10, and you were done, right? Now, news is coming at us from 416 different dimensions, 24/7. Yeah. And so what that means is that the thing that's scarce today is not information, it's our attention. We're constantly having this wall of information slamming into us, and the most effective ways to cut through the noise and get our attention is to hit the buttons of fear and outrage. Those are the 2 things that cut through the noise. So the people who are in the business of making money off of our attention have an incentive to stoke fear and outrage. Fear and outrage isn't necessarily what they're after. They're after our attention. That's an effective means. So there's domestic actors that are doing that for financial reasons. I would also add, certainly as somebody who's been in a international foreign affairs career, there are foreign actors that are also stoking these fires. But their interest actually is the discord. That they're pumping, commentary and ideas into the ecosystems and into the echo chambers that make us more and more afraid and outraged. And it is the discord that they're after. So we've got it coming from multiple different angles. And part of what we're trying to do is get people to just stand up and step back from that and be more thoughtful about how they're engaging. Would you want to?
Yeah, I would only add that one of the points of the various actors that are engaged in trying to divide us is trying to convince us that there's no point in trying to talk to people with whom we disagree as well. It's a way that they try to keep us separated, which makes it all the more important that we actually do talk to each other and find out actually people can have different opinions, and they could be good people and reasonable, and we might be able to find some common ground.
Indeed.
Leon, yeah, or I was going to ask you if that question that you were going to ask before. Did you want to go into that?
No, it's fine. It's fine. I know my internet sometimes give a little difficulty, but it's fine. But the thing that I wanted to add about this issue about civility is that, in the last 5 years, I think Jason raised the point. In the last 5 years, I think there's something that the media have been radically transformed, to me, that in the sense that they have now actually taken sides in the debate, in this debate, the societal debate that we have ongoing. And it's almost like, and Barbara, I think you raised this point, like they are adding fuel to any sort of fires that we may have over there. And they're looking for divisions, whether it's by race, whether it's by class, whether it's by whatever. Nowadays, they're looking for division between the vaccinated and the non-vaccinated. So all of these things are contributing to the lack of civility that we are seeing in our society. And I don't know if so far you guys have even seen this thing about the vaccinations that are now spilling into your work. I don't know if you're seeing that. Have you guys seen any of that?
It's certainly a topic that's come up, and there was actually a podcast that's coming up, or they just did.
I think it's out.
I think it's out, where Braver Angels did a discussion with people coming at that same topic from different views as well.
Yeah, the podcast and some of the other debates, for example, that Braver Angels has done, really tackle some controversial issues. The vaccinations. There was a national debate on the election,
Yes.
and whether there was fraud or not, whether there was suppression or not, so on and so forth. So there's been debates on CRT. There was a national debate on CRT a couple weeks ago.
Right.
So there's the point is as Barbara said, Braver Angels doesn't take any positions, but we try to create fora within which people can discuss even the most controversial issues in a constructive way.
I got you.
Yeah. Well, I had another question. Can you guys still hear me, by the way? Because it looks like
we are hearing you, Jason, but we can't see you. But go ahead.
My computer is being quite uncivil with me today. but it's not shut down my voice yet. So
I think your computer needs Braver Angels real bad right now.
Yes, exactly. I need a Braver Angels reboot. But yeah, no. One of the questions I wanted to follow up with what Leon asked as well is, with COVID, has that impacted your guys' outreach opportunities as well? Because certainly COVID has had a big impact on all kinds of activities. Is it impacting Braver Angels?
Okay, sure. I would say on one hand, it sort of drove us, like everybody else, to Zoom, but that's also allowed us to increase our reach. The organization, which was founded in late 2016 after the election, was sort of grown up organically in cities through word of mouth, and so in-person events were constrained to a certain extent to the laws of physics and people gathering, whereas when you have Zoom and that ability to reach out, you can get more people from a wider geographic area to engage, and that's been helpful.
It has. It's really allowed a much bigger connection with rural areas and states that have where people are a lot more spread out. So people have been able to join in, and it also allows us to have discussions that are not bound by geography, as Rick is saying, so we can have speakers from all over join in. So it's there's a trade-off. There's something important about breaking bread together to build connection and social trust, but it has allowed a lot of new activity and a lot of new synergies that we didn't have before.
And because of that, we are going to be going to a more hybrid approach with some in person and some Zoom, so that we can have the benefits of both.
Yeah,
that sounds great. I mean, the pandemic was a pain in the butt for nearly everyone, regardless of how whatever side you fall on, being shut down and all that kind of stuff. But it also have allowed people to reach out a lot more, I think. In my own personal life, that has been the case. And even this show came out of the pandemic, quite frankly. And, one of our partners is all the way in San Diego. He's ill right now, but he'll be joining us in the future. But the pandemic did produce some good, and I'm glad to see that it is helping your organization, in terms of outreach, in terms of more rural areas and things like that. That's a good thing to hear. It really is.
Rick and Barbara, there was one thing that you mentioned before, Glenn Lowry, and I know there's some prominent people associated as well with your association. I know Jonathan Haidt is on the board, I think, of your guys, and he's the author of The Righteous Mind, which certainly seems really key to all the stuff we're talking about. But are there other, I guess, notable figures too in your organization that our listeners might be aware of?
One person I would mention that I think is pretty prominent in the same circles as Glenn Lowry and people like John McWhorter is John Wood Jr., who typically is one of the hosts for the Braver Angels podcast, and he's a national ambassador for Braver Angels. And as Barbara said, it was actually one of his appearances that where I first came across Braver Angels and mentioned it to Barbara afterwards.
Yeah, one person I would mention, he's not a media personality, but he is well known in his field. One of the co-founders of Braver Angels is a gentleman named Bill Doherty, and he is a professor at the University of Minnesota, and his field is actually marriage and family therapy, and he is the architect of the Braver Angels workshops. And not that the workshops are therapy, but if you think about what happens when a family becomes dysfunctional and communication breaks down and becomes toxic, how do you get those people to sit down together and start reconnecting, and settings, finding a way to communicate that's a little more constructive and healthy. And the work that he's done to underpin all of our workshops is been really, really profound.
When I know we don't have very much time, but I don't want to get too personal into your lives, but how do you guys survive given the fact that Rick is on the right and if I understood, Barbara, you're somewhat on the left? How do you guys survive? Because I have a similar problem, and I've been married for almost 40 years, and I have a similar problem. So I'll just, as much as you can tell us,
I'll tell you real quick that we've survived because Barbara was a Braver Angel before Braver Angels existed. She engaged me with an effort to understand, and it wasn't until we started with Braver Angels that I understood what she was doing and what I needed to be doing.
Well said. Well said.
Real quick, before we leave, do you want to give us a little bit of information on how people can get involved with Braver Angels?
Absolutely. We encourage people to look at the website, braverangels.org. There's a lot of opportunities there for how to get involved. You can sign up and get on our mailing list and get messages about all the activities. We encourage people to become members. It only costs $12 a year to be a member. There's no obligation, but you have a full range of activities open to you for that. And if you're interested in doing more, there's a lot of ways to get involved, to help with the Zoom events, or to start a local alliance, or work in your state to promote the program. There's a lot of ways to get involved.
Well, thanks so much, Rick Hotchner and Barbara Thomas of Braver Angels. Truly a light of civility in this crazy times that we're in. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll hope to see you all at the next one. Until then, stay free.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Take care.